Hey guys, it's Jaden, and Star Trek Discovery is just something else. Today we're talking about Season 3, Episode 3, People of Earth. Yeah, let's go. A little quick recap. Essentially, the crew, Discovery, are essentially caught up on all of Burnham's exploits. Well, some, but the main points. She's really grown into be a completely different person. She's still the same person at heart, but she's different. She's gained some attributes. She's learned some things. She's forgotten some things because that's just called growth. And essentially, she's giving them everything that she's found so far about like what's been going on since the burn. Oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Dilithium. She's been giving them all of that. So it basically leads her to something of like, oh, we need to go to Earth. Okay, so we have a spore drive now, which don't get me started on a spore drive because I kind of have some weird feelings about it because I'm like, I don't know why, like when I was watching this episode, I was just like, wasn't that thing broke? But I guess it's not because Stemmons is fine now, or Stemmons, I'm just gonna forget that one. We're just gonna hop, skip, and jump over that. I just feel like there's so much around that spore drive as a whole, so I'm just gonna skip right over that. Essentially the guys are going to Earth. Booker's gonna come along, bring his ship, bring the cat, mass dilithium. They get to Earth, and essentially they're met with the United Earth Defense Force, who are essentially the people who protect Earth now. Which I think is kind of like a callback to like back in the day, like Enterprise, when they kind of had the United Earth Defense Force. So I think it's kind of like a callback. I don't know. It just reminded me of like those random people who were like doing training missions with Starfleet. And I think his name was Murphy, was like, I'm not gonna go off. My point is saying, callback. So they get to Earth and they're talking with United Earth Defense Force, and essentially they have like this big giant force field because they're like really Earth first, Earth only. We gotta protect ourselves. Which, granted, we live in a really weird place and the Federation isn't around anymore. So they also tell them like the Federation's headquarters is no longer alive. It's like, oh, okay. Well, what do we do now? We're looking for this person, Admiral Tal or whatever like that. And essentially, the Earth Defense Force goes on the ship to inspect the ship to make sure it wasn't really the pirates or the couriers or anything like that. So they, pirate out the ship, essentially. They go and inspect the ship to make sure there was no piracy. We meet this young person named Adira. Adira is a very teen genius. We love to see it. But she like sabotages the ship and forces like all the United Earth people to be stuck on the ship because she needed some time to really like fix it out. Essentially, when the Earth Raider basically was like, oh, we're getting that dilithium. And they came, they're like, oh, we're about to go do something. But Burham and Booker were like, oh, we got a plan. I got something for them. So this is what we're gonna do. They end up capturing Wynn eventually, without like alerting like Saru to the whole plot point of like what they were actually doing. And then they actually have a real conversation between Earth and Wynn. And Wynn is like really from Titan. He's actually human. And it's like their bad blood started over the fact that like when Titan basically became self-sufficient, and they split off, they needed help eventually because something bad had happened and like ruined their entirety of like what they were doing. And when they reached out to Earth to sit there and get some help, they were shot at and destroyed. So boom, bad guy, villain origin story right there. So they end up talking it out, figuring it out. Meanwhile, also within the episode, Captain Saru was given the captainship because, well, if we're really thinking about it, like as much as I want, Miss Burham to really get that captainship, she's not about it. She's just not about it. Saru's really about it. It makes a lot of sense. She doesn't accept number one at first, but she eventually accepts number one, and then Booker kind of just goes on his way, and then basically that's the ship, and Adira's gonna stay because it turns out Adira's a Trill. Okay. Wow. Surprise. Another callback. DS9. We love to see it. Truly. I feel like I'm doing a lot, but I don't really care. This was actually, I would say, like, an episode that was very heavy in, like, plot. A lot of stuff was happening, right? It was very dense. You had to get a lot of exposition. But if we're being honest, again, it kind of just goes to show, like, this reboot of the series was what the series should have been in the first place. Because it makes no sense why, like, it just makes a lot of sense now. Like, they could have easily built this into this series and gotten to this point so much quicker. I really do appreciate Admiral Giorgio. We got to also see Booker in like a lieutenant's outfit. That was cool. But like, I really appreciate that Admiral Giorgio or Emperor Giorgio, or whatever you want to call her, is basically being like, you need to learn who Burham is now. You need to figure this out. She's very different. She's picked up a couple new tips and tricks. This is not the same place that she was at before. Understand her, respect her agency, basically. And Saru's just like, well, she needs to follow Starfleet regulations. And honestly, I'm at this point, I'm like, don't get me started on having a conversation on who is Starfleet really. Like, are you a peacekeeping force? Are you an army? Are you explorers? Like, what are you, truly? So whenever someone brings up, Starfleet regulations that are just like very convenient to the plot, it kind of annoys me because it's just, Starfleet is really one of those things that is kind of, it's kind of in its own particular place. It tries to follow its own particular rules. And depending on what show it is, depending on who's writing it and everything like that, it depends on what Starfleet stands for. I would say like Discovery does a good opportunity, good thing of like making sure like the Discover aspect of like being that peacekeeping force and having those homages back to like the roots of what Starfleet's supposed to be. But at the same time, it is that question of like, we did have an army for like a little bit. We did have the peacekeepers. Like, it just, I feel like Starfleet is literally the UN with power. With power and army. Like, that's just that. Trying to bridge the gap between people and species, but whatever. So it turns out like the Federation is no longer on Earth. So now we gotta go find that. That's our next thing. But also turns out that Adira is actually Admiral Tal, who they're looking for, but she can't really access the memories because, she has the Trill symbiote inside of her. And I was just like, shout out to the Trill. Shout out to the Trill. Other notable mentions that I noticed were, Burnham's hair growing out within that year. I was like, ain't no damn way your hair grew that damn fast. What's your hair routine? Because I was like, that don't make no sense how you went from like, it didn't make no sense to me, like to a full length. That's just me being black and like knowing how long my hair grows. Like my hair has been growing out since the beginning of this year. We in October now. Ain't no way I got full length braid level hair. But whatever. So I think there's a really interesting dynamic between like Saru and Burham is that they play off this archetype of like the two rivals, and they kind of lose their mom and dad, which essentially is like their captain, and they have to like really figure it out. And I think finally at this point we're no longer fighting out who's going to be the captain, And like they've both become grown adults, like they've accepted their responsibilities and their places in the world. So that's interesting in itself. But I do think though, Burham still holds as much influence as Saru does, even though that Saru is captain. And I think that's mainly because like Burham is still Burham. Burham's never been really wrong. Like she's done some bad things, or she's done things non-Starfleet way, but she's never really been wrong. I do want to see the implementation of like more or an upgraded Discovery as we like go throughout this series. I would love to see that. I don't know, maybe with Adira being on the ship, we can really get some upgrades going. I don't really have a clue as to where this dilithium mystery is going to take us. That one last shot of the episode, which I really did appreciate, was the fact of like they were a lot of the Starfleet like Discovery team was like on the ground of Earth. It was like under this tree, and we got to see like Starfleet headquarters, like basically in the year 3100 or something like that. So that was really interesting. I really appreciate that because it was like a good callback to being like, you know what, even though like so many things change, there's a lot of things that are going to stay the exact same, and it may not be the Starfleet place, but this is like where we are. This is where we've grown. And yeah, I still am an adamant person on like, y'all need to upgrade Tilly. It don't make no damn sense why she's still an ensign. But yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of my feelings for the episode. I really enjoyed this episode. It just has been so much more fun, right? Like, I think Discovery is just so different compared to even like Picard. Like, Picard was just like, it was just so dense, right? Like, I don't think I enjoyed Picard at all. Like I did, there are certain aspects of it, like like Elnor, the Romulan ninja. I enjoyed him. I enjoyed probably seeing 7 to 9 a couple times, her becoming the Borg Queen for a little bit. Like, there are aspects of like Discord. There are aspects of Picard that I really enjoyed, but like, if I'm being honest, I just think like Discovery is just so much light, so much airy, so much fun, and they're not being dark and like depressing anymore. We don't have a killer AI trying to kill us. Like, fun stuff. Anyway, let me know how you feel about this episode. Did you really like it? Do you like where the series is going so far? Like, cause I'm really enjoying it. Anyway, I'll catch y'all later. Catch y'all next week. I'm gonna get out. I got some stuff to do. Anyway, talk to you later. Bye.